Welcome to Local Gov Strategy TV. Today I'm joined by Mark Adams Wright, who's the Chief Information Officer for Suffolk County Council. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you.
ICT as an enabler for change. What are you doing in Suffolk to ensure that information technology really makes a difference within local government?
I think one of the interesting things that we find at the moment is that the business strategies across all the councils are quite diverse, and they're quite embryonic in many ways. There are a lot of aspirations and a lot of expectations of the way things are going to be done. I think it's very easy for ICT as an enabler to be thrown out as a bit of a cheap trick, if you like, to try and underpin things that aren't very well organised. So I think from my perspective in Suffolk, what we're trying to do is really underpin the true value of the strategies that are being developed. So not rushing in, not trying to throw money and throw solutions at things that aren't really ready to go out. So we're trying to help the business to fully engage and understand what it is they want to do and make them a far more purposeful and developed solution before we start trying to add technology into the mix. If you don't do that, the danger is that technology overbalances the solution and then becomes a reason why something failed, rather than the fact that the strategies perhaps weren't as well thought through as they could have been, and therefore perhaps were deemed to fail in of themselves anyway.
So in a nutshell, what is the strategy?
The strategy for Suffolk is very simple, is to make sure that we, from a technical perspective, underpin everything that the council wants to achieve, but also make sure that the council runs at the best possible cost, point and value for what the organisation will be. Now, the expectation, clearly, as with many organisations, is that the numbers will diminish rapidly over the next 2 to 3 years and will be much smaller. Therefore, some of the solutions that we would have used in the past of an enterprise nature won't be so suitable or valid in the future. Clearly, also, there's a number of ways of doing business that have changed over the last few years and become more robust and practical, particularly around things like delivering services through the internet or cloud computing. I think what we're trying to do in Suffolk is to sort of change the way we look at the risk frameworks around adopting some of these technologies to really try and understand the value we can get. So the strategy very much is to do as much as we can to get things to lower cost ways of delivering, of which the cloud is clearly one, utilising public and private mixed cloud, but particularly looking at public wherever it can be done, and actually just enhancing a healthier attitude to the way that we look after information and technology, and particularly the security parts of it, and not get ourselves kind of bent a little bit out of shape or twisted in the wrong directions around trying to find ways to not do things, and actually change and enhance it to actually find ways to do things.
And you've given your strategy. Can you give some specific examples of things that you're doing within Suffolk that are really beginning to make a difference to citizens now?
Yeah, I think there are a number of things that we've looked at over periods of time, and certain things that are now coming to fruition. We've got a very healthy attitude towards the way that we look at getting back office systems up and running. We're starting to move away from the sort of more heavy duty, heavy cost pieces. I think the general feeling that we have in IT is that the answer to the problem will be to make sure we flow as much money back from back office systems not being deployed or closing things down to ensure that the front line can be supported and continue to work as it needs to in Suffolk. So we've done a lot of work around application rationalisation and data management, looking at our duplicates, of which we have many, continue to have many, but dropping those out, removing the old access databases, making sure that we've got proper views of what our corporate case management, event management softwares are, what our desktop strategy is going to be, how can we provide for the lowest possible cost. And that's really where we've been doing things. So utilising the cloud to get better value. I think probably the best example we can have is we use a product called Smartsheet now, rather than the old Microsoft project software. It's been a fantastic evolution for us, gives us huge benefit, but comes with a very marginal cost for the enterprise to use it. And I think it's allowed us to start to continue to evolve that journey into more endemic areas such as desktop. Virtualisation is key for us, making sure that we've moved towards a thinner council rather than the kind of thick client approaches we've had in the past. We'll be looking at pushing that footprint out. We've done the servers, we're now looking at the desktop, Citrix type products to be able to offer a different experience to council people. An aspiration of certainly mine and my colleagues is that in the future when people log in to a council device, they'll be simply presented with 2 modern browsers and an option to use Citrix for our legacy systems, and that was what it will be. People will be online very quickly, and they'll either be in the cloud or in a browser or in a very smaller legacy place. And that's kind of the driver we have to take ourselves forward.
But of course, you've got to have, you've got to take people along with you. You've got to take the staff. So how are you addressing that, where there's staff resistance to implementing or using new technology?
Well, I think it's very difficult for us in Suffolk because as a geography that's had poor connectivity and continues to, for the time being, have poor connectivity, I think the engagement with technology, particularly within the council, isn't as great as it could be in some of the more urban or metropolitan areas. So in dealing with that, you have to recognise the natural change issues that you get with that. I think you also have to recognise that where does the sustainability of change come in the organisation, and the tipping point where changes in technology are merely changes along with many others that they're going through within the council. So I think we have to keep slightly grounded about what we're doing and keep our eyes on why we're doing it and what importance is, and make sure that we engage in a way that's rather unerring in what we're trying to do, not dictatorial, but very purposeful. I also think some of the traditional channels that we've tended to use in local government will not allow these changes to manifest themselves with each individual, and will need to change. Certainly with some of the more practical ones around desktop and the other things that are going to be very immediate to individuals, we're talking about removing the old ideas of publishing on intranets and so on, and sending out email cascades as being, the main way that we would engage with the workforce. Now we're looking at doing YouTube videos, and I prefer the sort of Chalkman style ways of approaching things that allow you to bring things up and off the page so people have a real life experience that they can engage with and understand. Because if not, people haven't got time. Time is a very precious asset at the moment, and people won't have time to engage with those more traditional, drier media types. They'll need to take things in sound bites, and they'll need to be far more meaningful than they have been in the past.